how did you feel about Steph's run last week on finals day?
Pretty insane.
It was really such a cool storyline to watch develop throughout the day.
Yeah.
Somebody pointed out to me, a listener pointed out to me, he was rooting for Steph, but the same thing was happening on the men's side with Idolo. And he was rooting for Felipe to stop Idolo. And I was like, yeah, what is the difference?
Yeah.
We all love Steph, of course, so we're rooting for her, but we also love Carissa, so you don't want to see this happen to Carissa.
Yeah, totally.
You know, so I was wondering why would she just had this momentum, of us wanting her to do that. It was epic.
Yeah. I think it was this crazy amount of momentum that came through from her that nobody saw coming. I don't think we really actually thought that someone could win from that position. I didn't.
Yeah, I don't know if I did or if I didn't.
Yeah.
As soon as she locked in, I guess that priority decision against Brisa.
Yeah.
As soon as that happened, a light bulb went off for me where I'm like, oh shoot.
Yeah. She
could actually smoke the field.
Oh, totally.
You know?
Yeah, it was definitely that. It was like at the start of the heat, Steph, same as usual. It's not going to happen. It's early morning heat, first of the day. This is all going to go against her. We're not going to see this happen. And then as soon as that moment happened with Brisa, there was a change in who Steph was. And pedaling out in the next heat, she was just a different surfer.
Yeah.
And I think too, for her, it was I think she became a bit of a different surfer in the back half of this year. And so I kind of saw that coming through from her. I didn't still think that she probably had the odds in her favor to actually win the title this year in the format. But I think seeing her run this year to me was really incredible. Going from almost not making the cut, which was insane. What would we have done without Steph Gilmore on tour this year had she fallen off at the cut? I don't know how we would have moved forward from that. And then to see her actually find momentum to get that win in El Salvador and to just start surfing really well was really cool. And then to see her kind of go through almost that same moment on finals day. It was the relapse of her entire year happened right in front of her in that first heat, right?
Yeah.
She almost didn't do it. Brisa made that mistake, which was so sad because Brisa was surfing so well. She's someone who's surfing I really enjoyed this year.
She'll be around. She'll be
she's
back.
She's going to be around
That's a learning
for a long
experience,
time for sure. Definitely.
In that moment, that's the champ took advantage.
Exactly. And then to just, once that moment happened, it was oh yeah, Steph's here.
Yeah.
And she can definitely do this.
She even said it in her post-heat interview.
Yeah.
She was in that moment, leading into that moment, I was realizing the feeling I had last year and the mistakes I made last year at this event in this first heat. And I was like, there's no way in hell I'm letting that happen again.
Yeah.
And the thing is, once she gets to her feet on a right-hand point break, it's she knows what she can do. There's no question about her ability. So, Steph, just do you.
Yeah.
Just do totally. You and you'll blow doors on everybody.
Yeah, that was exactly it. And I think that was I think Carissa must have just known that was the Steph that she was paddling out against, right?
It felt that way. It felt like Carissa saw this train coming.
Yes.
And she was quaking in her boots.
Yeah.
As opposed to Felipe, he wasn't even looking at the train. Mm-hmm. Felipe was just I'm going out there to do what I do every day of the week and nobody can stop me. Yeah. And so it almost didn't matter what Idolo was up to.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Where for Carissa, she was nervous knowing the Steph that was coming out against her or terrified.
Because she idolized Steph for so long.
Totally. And I mean, looking at their world title years, they went back and forth for so many of those years through the 2000, probably 13s, 14s, 15s, that kind of season. Where it was those two, and for them to be able to match up against each other in that final matchup was insane. And then Carissa just didn't show up.
Yeah.
And she had those couple paddles and missed those waves.
Shocking.
Literally such deep shock inside of my body as that was happening because they had all the scoring potential. They were the waves and she was going to get the score. She just
she had priority.
And she had everything. She had everything in front of her.
It's so relatable.
Yeah, it's
the point I related to is when the nerves are on, I make stupid errors in the surf where I revert back to being a complete novice strictly because I got nervous, And so I saw her do that. I'm like, oof.
Yeah.
I know exactly what that feels like.
And that
on
was
a much
the weird,
smaller scale.
I feel like that was a weird thing too because Trestles is so soft, right? And it is it has those little moments and it's easy waves to catch, nerves into the equation. It does have those little moments where it's that kind of back off.
Yeah.
And that kind of okay, it looks like it's going to peak. It doesn't peak. You're trying to paddle into it. It's not quite there. And she got sucked into that whole realm, which is not something that she should have been sucked into. But it was almost like there's all this conversation about trestles being a wave that has zero consequence to it. And we'd love to see finals running in a wave of consequence, right? But like, that's the consequence. Like, that was the consequence for Carissa. They're just getting sucked into that funny little moment of like knowing how like the softness of the wave was the consequence that worked against her.
Twice.
that was nuts. The fact that it happened a second time. And then for Steph to like go out and do that little like finner reverse
Insane.
pub sandwich, whatever you call it at the end.
That. Yeah.
It was crazy. And that to me was like, I was hoping to see Carissa in a moment like that. Like my expectation at the start of the day was that Steph would probably make it through a heat or two. And then because she'd be fiery and wanting to come back from last year. But then maybe in a Joanne Carissa final matchup, if Carissa found some momentum, we'd end up seeing her go to the air. Just do something fun because she'd already be in that rhythm. She'd be dropping big scores. And to see Steph do that to her, like Steph's not somebody that we necessarily equate to that. We've seen her do it a couple times. She did, and she went to the air in, I think, Mexico last year. For her to do that to Carissa, to me was like, ooh.
It was like a death blow, you know? Like she was already shredding, but then to do that exclamation point.
Yeah.
But I think that turn, in a lot of ways, is gnarlier than going to the air.
Yeah.
That club sandwich turn.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Just something so progressive and so different. And I just thought that was the coolest moment for her to seriously like put the nail in the coffin.